Ladies and gentlemen, this is White Lightning 777, and this video today is about the differences between the flu and cold on the one hand, Omicron, and the original CCP bioweapon on the other. Now, this discussion is limited only to what these viruses do in my own body and how they react to medications I take. This is not medical advice. Every person, every body, every space body reacts differently to different viruses, to different foods, to different drugs, and different treatments. Okay? So again, this is not medical advice. This is just what I've observed. So the first, and I'll discuss Omicron. The original, when I say the original bioweapon, I've had the COVID-19 in various forms or whatever you want to call it 3 times. Okay. And I did take the J&J shot. No, it doesn't work, but hydroxychloroquine controls the side effects in less than an hour. So that's the good news. So at least, I didn't lose any time off of work. And I did an earlier video on that. It's probably on YouTube or Rumble, but that we won't go there now. I'll only briefly touch on it. So the first time I caught the virus, I protested like tens of thousands of other people on January 6th and riding to the protest site at Union Station. And I will say I did not break any laws. I did not go inside the Capitol building. I was purely on the outside of the building, and I encountered no legal issues. Everybody's phone that was there was GPS positioned, and so, I was, cleared. They would have arrested me by now if I did something wrong. So no, I didn't go inside the building or anything like that. I saw people going in. I saw people doing things they shouldn't have done, but I didn't do it. So anyway, on January 6th, while riding there, I was on a train, and there was a sick girl, and her grandmother was even sicker, and she almost looked like, and I almost was was going to say something to the train conductor about her going to the hospital. They seemed to have, respiratory illnesses and stuff. One person got on the train with me, looked at them, heard someone sneeze, and then immediately got jumped off. And I was like, what's that about? And then the doors closed. And through much research and, through analysis of what they said, I determined that they were actually speaking Portuguese. And then I figured out that the flag on that girl's backpack was a Brazilian flag. She wanted to take pictures with my Trump hat. Her family wanted to do that, and I also was holding a flag pole, and she wanted to hold the flag pole. And I gave her that, and I took her phone, and I took her picture, and then she gave it back to me. Everyone was wearing face masks, but I think that in retrospect, she was sneezing and coughing. In retrospect, that might not have been such a good idea. I was so angry about the stolen 2020 election that I didn't give a rat's ass about a virus one way or another. On January 12th, I came down with symptoms and went into a clinic and took a test in a clinic, the quick test and the regular PCR. I did the double, that had 2 different tests in one day. Both of them came back positive, and they called me when I got home a day later and said, well, your test lit up like a Christmas tree, and you definitely have it. So we'll go into the symptoms of the bioweapon, which was the Brazil variant. I caught it from Brazilians. That was the dominant variant at the time. I assume it was Brazil variant. Could have been wild type, but it was probably Brazil variant, which is known as, I believe that's known as gamma, if my recollection is correct. The symptoms of that, it's not at all like the flu. It's a tropical illness. You have very high fever, like 103.7 fever. Blood oxygen drops to 80 to, anywhere from 86 to 94%. You can have very high blood pressure, very low blood pressure. Pulse does. I have a pulse oximeter, and I have a blood pressure cuff. Okay, and it changes. So the other thing that happened was my girlfriend caught it, and her cat was sleeping like here on me while I'm kind of passed out in the bed. And the thing is, her tail was sort of like up around this area, and my nose was kind of, I was like this, and my nose was running, and it got onto her tail and her back paw. So she meows, and I'm like, wake up, like, what happened? Oh, ew, yuck, there's snot on my face. And then the cat is like licking her tail, and I'm like, no, Mystic, no, don't do it, don't do it. And then the cat got sick. So our first difference between the CCP bioweapon and the cold and flu, and don't know about Omicron, is that it's transmissible to animals. Mystic the cat caught it, and she started sneezing about 12 hours later. She would just, hit you, hit you, hit you. And you'd hear every 5 to 10 or 15 minutes, she would just start, hit you, hit you, hit you, sneezing. Okay. And she caught it. And then she was fine about 36 hours later. Me and the girlfriend were both still sick. So the first difference is that it is very transmissible to animals. There are plenty of reports with pre-Omicron strains like wild type, gamma, etc., epsilon, all those other ones, of them transmitting to animals like cats, dogs, and ferrets seem to be most affected. Don't know about birds or parrots. Don't know about, I would assume that if you are one of the few people who owns a pet monkey, I think it's safe to assume that your primates could also catch, primates can catch most human diseases. We know that anyway. So your cold and flu do not transmit to animals. The second difference is the fact that with the bioweapon, it is a very painful illness. It causes pain here. You can feel your sinuses. You can feel every ligament, every tendon. I still have numb areas here. I could take pliers. Okay. I could take pliers. I could squeeze as hard as I want. I could practically break the bone. I can't feel this. I can't feel anything here. I still have nerve damage here and here, but whereas if I did that, on my other finger, I'm fine. It does cause peripheral nerve damage. Okay. So the second difference is bone pain. And the third difference is that the bioweapon causes peripheral nerve damage in your fingers and in your toes. Okay. So that's the third difference between that and the flu. So you're going to have numbness, you're going to have bone pain, you're going to have pain in your joints. The symptoms, it's very similar. What I suffered is very similar to dengue fever. You know how they call that breakbone fever? The symptoms that I have seem to match descriptions of that. So it does. And this damage to this day persists. So the third difference is that the pre-Omicron bioweapon causes nerve damage. It can damage your smell. It can damage your taste. My grip strength isn't as strong as it used to be. It's about 2/3 of what it used to be. So it does cause nerve damage. So that's the third difference. The fourth difference is that it causes extreme weight loss. I lost 17 pounds the first time I had it within a week. Okay. No, even if you're puking your guts out with a stomach flu, you're not going to lose 17 pounds in 1 week. You're just not. And I was drinking plenty of fluids. They taste, of course, the classic taste and smell distortions apply. There's no sense of taste and smell. Everything kind of tastes halfway between blood, and it kind of has a sulfurous taste like battery acid. Again, your taste and smell, those nerves, that's also part of your peripheral nervous symptoms. So that's the fourth difference between first generation bioweapon and the cold and flu. The other symptom you have is it makes you delirious. So when you sleep, it also causes, you can't even sleep your way through it. It causes you to have very, very vivid nightmares. You know how like in the Vatican where Leonardo da Vinci has the paintings of hellscapes, or if you've seen Hellraiser, where the black light's there, you have these vivid nightmares about that are quite literally hellacious. Now, I like a good horror movie. Okay, I think things like Saw are funny, but this is beyond that. I mean, this is, you pretty much, when you're in it, you've just pretty much figured, well, I died, didn't quite make it, that you're done. Like Dante says with his writings, abandon all you hope, ye who enter here. There literally is a gate that says that. At least in my nightmares there was. I don't know. There's nightmares about it. Kind of part of the reason I'm doing this now. Okay, so that's the hellscapes. That's what, the fourth or fifth difference. So you also have the sixth difference is that you have a lot of fluid buildup in your lungs. Like when my fever broke and I got better, I went outside just to take out the trash, and I figured I'm just going to try to run, and just to run up the sidewalk and back just to see if I can still breathe. Well, I ran out of breath quickly, and then I started coughing and coughing and coughing, and all of this fluid just started pouring out of me. I wasn't sure if I was vomiting or there was fluid in my lungs, but we're talking, like, how a large pizza is? Like, that's how much snot and it's bloody mucus stuff came out of my lungs. Okay, and then all of a sudden, wow, I can breathe again. And then when I went back inside, the same thing happened, and I went and started coughing in the sink, it pretty much, I ended up cleaning the entire sink, because there's a huge volume of fluid in your lungs. And then when I looked at my blood oxygen levels, they were normal. So I was good. So, it definitely causes fluid buildup in the lungs. Flu and cold does not cause fluid buildup in the lungs, and it doesn't cause bleeding from the lungs. So that's your seventh symptoms, is what it puts into your lungs. Flu and cold doesn't do that. I mean, this is a tropical illness and overall, it has symptoms, some symptoms that are like malaria, some symptoms that are like dengue fever, some symptoms that are like pneumonia. So this is in no way, shape, or form the flu. Of course, the eighth difference, is the type of virus that causes this. Coronaviruses are a family. Now, when you look at influenza viruses are another family. So, and what influenza viruses cause the flu. What causes cold? Colds are mostly caused by rhinoviruses and adenoviruses. Those are another family. That's why the J&J shot, they used an adenovirus. They used a modified common cold, one of the many tens of thousands of common cold viruses. 4 of the common cold viruses are human coronaviruses. So, okay, again, that would be, what was it? We're up to symptom number 8. Is the type of virus that causes this. And yes, they have been sequenced. Yes, they have been seen under the microscope. Yes, viruses exist. Again, I did a series of videos called Banned Social Contagions. I dealt with virus denial in a previous video. Watch that. So that's the other difference. So that's what causes it. Now, here's the thing. The ninth, we're up to 9. Yeah, it's 8. It's the kind of viruses that cause it. So 9, the other difference is what treats it. And this is why testing is important. When I had Omicron, those symptoms are a lot more flu-like. You still get some of the deadening sense of smell. You still get some of the deadening sense of taste. And, the joints aren't like in raging pain, like somebody literally hit every single joint in your body with a hammer. It's not like sledgehammer pain, but they're still kind of achy, but not nearly as much. You still have that, and the mucus and the discharge from Omicron, which I've had twice, it has a different consistency. It still has that metallic taste and smell, but overall, you could mistake it for the flu if you didn't know the difference. It's much more flu-like, so, but it still responds to the same good old ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and vitamin D with Zithromax. It still responds to the same cocktail. So the ninth difference is the medications. Like what I have the full cocktail. I have ivermectin, I got hydroxychloroquine, I got vitamin D, I got vitamin E, I got zinc, I got Zithromax. I got it all. I'm not going to show you where I keep it. I'm not going to show you what it looks like, because I don't want it stolen. I don't want, I bought all of it lawfully. Bought it online. If you buy something in another country online, that country's law, and it's over the counter, that country's laws applies. American law doesn't apply, because an American tourist in that country could buy it and take it back with them. By the way, so DEA, go to hell. Okay. Now, and I'm not reselling it for a profit either. So no, don't ask me for the cocktail. I'm not going to give it to you. Go buy it yourself. Because I don't want to run afoul. I don't want to run afoul of the feds. I want to show them the due deference and respect that they deserve. Okay, so that's the other difference, is what treats it. Your cold and flu, what I use to treat it, Advil and Sudafed from behind the counter. The stuff with pseudoephedrine, not the fake Sudafed. You want to use the real Sudafed with pseudoephedrine. And Advil, you can take, the prescription dose is 800 milligrams. The non-prescription dose, if you buy it off the shelf, each pill has 200. So you can take it 4 at a time every 8 to 12 hours. So cold and flu, simple to treat. If you have stomach flu, you can also throw, Imodium or Pepto-Bismol or one of the others, and they work fine. So the drugs are different. The cocktails don't work on the cold and the flu. They are absolutely, totally, positively ineffective. And if you take Advil with Omicron or the bioweapon and Sudafed, the symptoms get much, much worse. They don't get better, they get worse. So if you have flu-like symptoms and you take your flu meds and it gets worse, you probably have the virus. At least if your body reacts the same way mine does. I'm just talking about myself. So yes, testing is important, because there's a big difference between ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine on the cocktail on the one hand, and Sudafed and Advil and Pepto-Bismol on the other. Those ain't the same. You have to know which batch of drugs to use to treat it. Now, the testing that I do, I always use the home test. I always use the box you take home. Now, if the feds want to invade my privacy, they may be able to figure out that I paid cash or a credit card for a test. They don't know what I did with the test. They don't know whether I put it on a shelf, tested positive, tested negative, or maybe even shoved it up my ass. They have no idea what I did with it. By the way, no, you don't shove it up your ass. You just put the thing in your nose. It's better to use the home test, because guess what? You don't have to tell anybody. If you want to, you can photograph it and say, hey, and tell your employer, I need time off work if you're not feeling well. And personally, if I do test positive for this, no, I'm not going to work. I'm not going to sit here, it's serious, and go to work when you're sick. I don't work when I'm sick, especially since I'm an armed security guard. I carry a gun. You should not carry a gun if you're incapacitated. And this is one of those no shit Sherlock things that people do that seems to be the rage, that is a bad idea. Do not work if you're positive for this. And there's no reason to suspect that test doesn't work. Now, whether the test is specific enough to tell one of the 4 human common cold coronaviruses from Omicron coronavirus, I assume that it is. But if you have the cold or flu, influenza viruses, adenoviruses, and rhinoviruses are all completely different families that don't have anything genetically in common with coronaviruses. It is possible with the test that if you have the human coronavirus, I don't know, it might in theory be possible that you would test positive. But you have to remember that when China made the virus, they put in different binding sites specifically so that drugs like hydroxychloroquine would kill it. This thing was made in a lab, and that kill switch has survived from the bioweapon to the newest strain. That kill switch that lets the antiparasitics work is still there. Human coronaviruses, none of these naturally occurring viruses have that kill switch. Those were designed by evolution, not in a lab. But one of the things we have to understand about virology and evolution is that when you have a highly mutagenic virus, it becomes more contagious but less dangerous over time. So essentially, the problem solves itself. Vaccinating against bat coronaviruses don't work because the incubation period is too short and they mutate too quickly. If you, let's say, took a vaccine, let's say a Novavax against strain 3.1.2 or something, well, congratulations, you'll be immune to the Omicron strain 3.1.2, but you're not going to be immune to 4.0 or 2.0. See what I mean? There's no crisscross immunity with coronaviruses. That's been debunked. So, yes, it is worth testing. Yes, it is worth testing. And if your blood oxygen, I mean, the first time I had it, I would have been put in a hospital and on a ventilator. I elected to refuse hospitalization because I didn't want to die with all those tubes in me. And my decision was, if I want to die, I would rather it be at home. And that's why I refused. But again, that was me. I just didn't want to, go through that experience. That's why I stayed home. Again, but if your blood oxygen drops, to the mid or low 90s, technically, that is grounds for hospitalization. So, anyway. Hopefully this short video will answer the questions that it does. See, and you might ask, with the vaccination, I took the J&J shot after I had the Brazil variant, but before I caught Omicron. The reason why was because, the other final difference, 10th difference between them, oops, I forgot, is that in the original strain, it produces scarring in the lungs, which leads to shortness of breath. And I was using a steroid inhaler for several months. Eventually, my body healed. Now, whether my lung capacity was restored or whether my body manufactured extra red blood cells like someone at high altitude to deal with reduced capacity, I don't know. But, my body eventually recovered. Because I was still using this inhaler, when the J&J shot came out, I took it. I figured it's one shot. Most people have issues with the second shot, and there's no way in hell I'm going near mRNA. But again, the reason I did that was because I didn't want to have additional scarring in my lungs, because then you need an oxygen tank. And having reduced lung capacity, it feels like you're smoking again. It kind of sucks to have that happen. But, a little bit of time on the treadmill and everything was fine. Knowing, whether you want to get vaccinated, that's up to you. I don't think it should be compulsory, but unless you have a risk factor or a comorbidity that will make Omicron kill you, you probably don't need to be vaccinated. Omicron in and of itself is a mild illness that does not justify the risk of vaccination, in my opinion. And again, I have concerns about the mRNA shots. Again, I put that in a previous video. So hopefully, and I've been asked this question, this is literally the 50th post I've been on Getter, Gab, CloudHub, Truth Social, and a few others, and X. This is like the 50th time I've been asked, so that's why I'm doing a video on this issue. This is White Lightning 777 signing out. Long live our republic. Thank God Trump won, in the name of the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Grateful to be alive. God bless America.